Alright, so in this video we are going to be talking about lesson 2.8, estimating products. And so when we estimate, that's making a guess, an educated guess of sort about what you think will happen. But in this case we're going to use rounding, or essentially using compatible numbers. And so a compatible number, as we look at our notes here, compatible numbers are numbers in a problem that are easy to compute mentally, meaning turn them into something that makes sense, that's easy to work with. Typically, those are numbers that end with 0. Maybe 5, but typically we round them to numbers that are to 0. So, as we look at our first example, so a pet store has 12 gecko lizards for sale. Each gecko lizard costs $92. About how much money would the store make if it sold 12 gecko lizards? So estimate the product 92 and 12. So 92 times 12, that's a pretty tough number to do mentally. So we can break it down and say, well, 92, I can keep it to not and stay as 92, but 12, I can change it to a 10 because 12 is pretty close to 10, and then I can apply my powers of 10 and multiply. Well, 1 and 92 is 92, and then I simply am plugging in that extra 0. So rounding one factor, the answer would be 920. Now if I were to round both of them, I'm going to get a slightly different answer. And the more we round our numbers, the further off it'll be from the actual true answer. So 92, if I rounded both of them, 92 would change to 90 and 12 would round to 10, because if I figure 92 on a number line, is it closer to 90 or is it closer to 100? Well, it's only 2 away from 90, but it's going to be, let's make that 100, it's going to be 8 away from 100. So 90 is a much better idea. Same thing with 12, it's 2 away from 10. So again, powers of 10, 9 and 1 is 9, and I have 2 zeros, right? 1 and 2 zeros here. So in my answer, I need to have two zeros as well. 1, 2. So as I round both of them, my answer changes just a little bit more, and I end up with 900. So if I were to go one step further and say I'm going to use a compatible number and round up, right? So by using compatible numbers, I change 92 to a nice big number of 100, right? Because that's an easy number to multiply. And again, 12 I change to 10. So powers of 10, again, 1 and 1 is 1, but I have 1, 2, 3 zeros. So in my answer, 1, 2, and 3 zeros involved here, right? 1, 2, and 3. So an estimate, if I were simply to mentally look at it and say 92, it's close to 100, 12, kind of close to 10, an estimate would be it's going to be about $1,000 for those 12 geckos. Well, if we use a calculator, right, which we're not going to, because 5th grade we don't use calculators. We're better, we can do this, we need to know our application to it. And so if we said 92, and I'm going to multiply it by 12 to find the actual true answer. We talked about this in class, but we apply what we talked about as like our bow tie method or our butterfly method, however you want to look at it. But I'm looking at my 12 or my 2 and 2 here. So I multiply 2 and 2 and I get 4. And then I'm going to multiply 2 and 9, right? And I get 18. Right? 18. So I am done with the 2, so I'm going to plug in a placeholder 0. And that placeholder 0 simply identifies that the 1 is not just 1. It actually is 10, because what place value is the 1 in? The tens, so the 1 has a value of 10. Now I can multiply my 1 by the 2, right? And so 1 times 2 is 2. And again, I multiply 1 times 9, and I get 9. I add those two numbers up. I'm done with my multiplication. So 4 and 0 is 4. 8 and 2 is 10. 0 down, carry the 1. 1 and 1 and 9 is 11. Because 1 and 9 is 10, plus that other 1 is 11. So 1,104 is the actual answer. So is the estimate of them, were they greater or less than the actual product? Well, they were actually less than it, right? Because we rounded most of them all down, right? 92, we rounded, well, we kept 92, but we changed the 12 to 10. 92 to 90, 12 to 10, it's down. So if you round them down, you'll find a pattern that your answers are going to be less. Now the 92 we rounded up to 100, and the 12 we rounded down to 10. It's going to be a little bit more accurate because we rounded, them kind of even them out and balanced it, but still our answer, it's accurate. So this is a good estimate. And again, we talk about our bow tie method because this kind of looks like if this was like the center of the bow tie right here, and it kind of goes outward and kind of creates this nice, pretty, bow tie-esque shape. Or you could think of it as your butterfly, right? And we'll have a really rough butterfly look, right? And it kind of looks the same idea that we have our butterfly here. Anyways, carrying on. So let's do our next problem together. So 32, we would change to 30, right? So I want to make each number rounded off. So 32 is 30, 18. I'm going to round up to 20 because if I put 18 on a number line, right, and I put 20 above and even 10 below, right, 18 is 2 steps from 20, but it's 8 steps from 10, so this is my better idea to pick 20. Compatible numbers, easy numbers to work with, almost like our powers of 10 still. 2 times 3 is 6, and I simply can look that I've got 1, 2 zeros involved, so I add my 2 other zeros, so the product is going to be about 600. Next one, 98 and 83. 98, I'm going to change to 100, right? Because it's 2 away from 100 and 8 away from 90, so the more compatible number but also an easier number to work with is 100. 83, I'm going to change to 80. Powers of 10, 8 and 1 is 8. And then again, I have 1, 2, 3 zeros from the problem. So I'm going to plug in my 1, 2, and 3 zeros. So 98 times 83 is going to be about 8,000. So now let's look at some independent practice here. And I'll do the first few with you, and then you will do the rest on your own. So let's break it down, and we'll even zoom in just to make this a little bit easier to work with and focus. So if we were looking at our first one here, 218, I'm going to change 218. Let's make that, we can make that even 220. So I'm going to round that off, and I'm going to keep 6 as 6. Now we can multiply this and say, well actually no, let's not make that 220. Let's keep that simply as 200, right? I'm going to round this, make an even easier compatible number. 2 and 6 is 12, and then I have 1, 2 zeros, so I plug in my zeros here, so I'm estimating this answer is going to be about 1200. Now I did round this off quite a bit, so if I were to round this the other way, and I said 218, and I kept that as, let's even make that 220, and then we'll change the 6 to a 10, right? And I multiply 1 and 22 is 22, and then I have my 2 zeros, so now I've got an answer about 2200, right? So show your work, right? Show how you estimated. That's a very important part of this, to show what you're making your numbers. 68 and 7. I'm going to change my 68. Let's make that 70. And I'm going to keep my 7 to 7, right? The more unchanged the number, the more accurate it is to the true multiplication, the true product of it. So 7 and 7 is 49, and I have 1 0, so the estimation would be about 490 for this answer. 131 and 29, I'm going to change my 131, let's make that 130, right? And 29, let's make that 30. So now what I'm looking at is really more or less 13 times 3. And so 13 and 3, 3 and 3 is 9, and 3 and 1 is 3, and I just have 1, 2 zeros, so 3,900. Let's look at number 60, or not 60, number 6 with 61 times 68. So again, we don't do our multiplication vertically, or horizontal, we do it vertically. So I'm going to rewrite this. It takes no more than just a few seconds to rewrite this vertically. Please do that, right? That way you keep everything lined up. You can actually show what you're changing your numbers to just a little bit easier. Oh, let's change our color here, right? And so I'm going to make 61, I'm going to change that to 60, and 68 I'm going to change to 70. I'm going to multiply 6 and 7, I get 42, and I have my 2 zeros here, so I get 4,200 or 4,200. Now, hopefully you identified, you're like, oh, there's something new, right? This little sign here, this means about, right? Approximate. And so if I were to say 61 times 68 is about 4,200, 4,200, it'd be accurate. 79 times 56, again, rewrite your problem, right? So I'm going to make 79 times 56. I'm going to change that, and let's make our 79, we'll change that to be 80, and let's make our 56 60. So now when I multiply, again, I'm just looking at my easy compatible numbers to work with, and so I've got 8 and 6, 8 times 6 is 48, and then again I have 2 zeros involved here, so I'm simply just plugging in my 2 zeros at the end, and I get 4,800, 4,800. Oh boy, it's a 3-digit number. Can we do it? Absolutely, right? So let's look at our first one here, and we'll rewrite it. 392 times 46. So I'm first going to change my numbers. I'm going to change 392. Let's make that a nice 400, right? And then I'll change 46, and we'll make that 50. Because these are easy numbers to work with. Compatible numbers are easy numbers to work with. Again, I'm just looking at the easy math, right? My basic math fact here, and saying 4 times 5 is 20. And then I count my zeros. 1, 2, 3. Powers of 10. I can simply add those 3 other zeros. And so my final answer of this is going to be 20,000. About, right? So go ahead and continue practicing on your own with the following problems here, and we'll check on this tomorrow. Hopefully this makes sense in estimating our products. If you need more help, let me know. Thank you.